everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and this is very important episode because today we are introducing world largest ecosystem for startup, and we are getting all of the support, more than 2,000 venture capital from world around the world. So our initiative, we are launching our initiative not only in Bangladesh or in India. We are launching this initiative in Asia Pacific, but definitely we need global peace, we need a good environment, and we need perfect collaboration. And I want to give special thanks to all of our fellows, those who regularly support World Talent Economic Forum, uh, as well as those who continuously join in World Talent Economic Forum dialogue. So first, I would like to give chance, Mr. Fred. How can university transform student ideas and research into high growth startup and future unicorn companies? What's your thoughts about that? And I know you have very innovative companies, and how you can contribute even in Bangladesh or in India or in Pakistan or in Malaysia. What's your thought?
Well, I believe Asia is going to be an instrumental in starting this process on a worldwide basis. We already have the education and universities tied together with private enterprise here in this country, and it's going to have to work between all levels, maybe from the top down, maybe from the bottom up, organizing community groups and nations reaching across borders and giving equal voice and working towards a future collaboration. Thank you, Dr. Shreve, Rob, Gary, David, everybody today. Thank you for letting me be here.
Mr. Rob, yes, Mr. Rob, how you want to define University of Unicorn? How does it work?
Well, when moving something from education into business, the problem often is you've got a lack of skills on both sides. The university students coming up with the idea typically lack the background and understanding on how to build a business, and the business leaders on the other side often won't accept what's coming out of the university, which is often very divergent from whatever it is they're doing, as being an acceptable path forward. A number of companies have attempted to address this aggressively. Intel has a significant university development effort. IBM has as well. My experience with IBM Research back in the day was that they would develop all these wonderful things that nobody could figure out to actually monetize. And then they went and fixed that, decided they were only going to develop stuff that was going to be monetizable. And the end result is they just curtailed creativity, and the amount of stuff that was coming out that was really interesting actually went down. So the need to balance the skill set with the idea and surround it with a set of resources that understand the business becomes the task at hand. You can look at how some of the larger companies were formed back in the day. Microsoft and Apple, I'm the most familiar with, in that they brought in experienced business people early on to firm out the build out of the company. And this is really what kind of differentiates the good VC firms from what I would call the questionable ones. You don't want a situation where you're just throwing money at something and then expecting the folks to do something intelligently with it. The .com collapse, I think, is a good example of what happened when funding got well ahead of capability, and people were spending money like it was literally growing on trees. And the end result is they were burning through their capital so quickly they could never actually get into profitability, and we had massive amounts of failure as a result. So the goal really has to be to assure the success of the outcome without curtailing the creativity of the source. And there's a dance that is difficult to do. And what's really important at the start of anything like this is to have people that have experienced this particular cycle before, and so that they're dealing with the situation from experience, not just from assumptions. And I've seen a number of VC firms come and go because they really thought that because that they made their money, they understood how that money was made, and the fact of the matter was they didn't. And so assuring the breadth of skills that go into building a company, of finance, in particular, of financial controls, accounting, And then if you're building a hardware product, people understand manufacturing and the limits of material science. And if you're doing software, these days you pretty much have to become an expert on AI coding, and then have a good idea of how to transition the coders that are coming out of school to build that VC into experienced people that then can use the AI tools to build whatever it is they're planning on building, while assuring quality out the back end. There's a real dance here, and this dance does require experience. So in doing this right, I would certainly advise making sure the core team has a critical mass of people that have been through this before and understand the natural mistakes that can be avoided at the front end.
Thank you. Thomas, how you want to define this university to unicorn? How can university transfer student idea and research into high growth startups and future unicorn companies? What's your thought? Thomas, can you unmute yourself? Thomas, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me? Dr. Sharif?
Yes.
Okay, somehow
Yes.
my mic got muted. Yeah. The question was, how can you contribute to help university students to transition into economy leadership position, correct?
Yes.
Hello? Yes. See, when I was a university student in the United States, there was an organization called www.sbir.gov. And there you could apply for grants to up to $3 million to start a company that promotes new technology in interest of society. And I never know of any other country except the United States where they have a program where they see that if an idea has been developed with university funding, there is a gap to bring it to the market. And for that, the government allows the opportunity to apply for up to $3 million that don't have to be paid back. But I haven't seen that in any other country where the government understands that new ideas, when they are technically feasible, they are not helping the market until there's a company marketing them. And they have that bridge called, you can type that in your system, sbir.gov. There you can apply. I didn't get the grant I wanted to just because I was not an American citizen at the time. But I think if every country would have that, we would have much more startup companies run by university students that would get the financial help they need to put their ideas into reality.
Mhm. Thank you. Professor David Smith, a long time you are contributing in the innovative industry, specifically for startup ecosystem and so on. So what are the biggest challenges that university entrepreneur faces when moving from innovation to commercializations? Example, country like Bangladesh, I know that they have more than 3,500 innovation in agriculture, but they do not know how to go for commercialize it in the global market. What's your thoughts? How we can improve this commercialization process, Mr. David?
Well, commercialization is one of the hardest things within university environments because the reward systems are 100% different. And it's one which I've had some very interesting experience in. And I've been involved.
David, hang on. Lisa, could you mute? I think your sound's bleeding through and it's hard to hear David. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is one which I've had a lot of experience with in both universities and setting up community-based technology transfer organizations, and actually being the keynote speaker at the Technology Transfer Association. But there's one analogy, Dr. Sharif, that I think is the best analogy to explain the challenges you have at universities. And I'm trying to move commercialization. I know we have one woman on the panel today, but I'm going to use this analogy, which I think all of us will get. And the analogy I use that fits so well here is like baking a cake. I can put all the ingredients in a cake pan and it says bake the cake for an hour. But university technology transfer stops baking the cake after 30 minutes because there's no incentive to bake it the rest of the way, which is what is needed for commercialization. And so that's the technology you get out of a classic university. It's got some crust around the outside because the idea is good, but the inside of the technology is like that gooey part of the inside of the cake. It needs a lot of work. It doesn't have a consistency. It doesn't have a structure that can be successful. And, I've used that analogy for, I hate to say this, 20 years. And looking at university commercialization, it really hasn't changed that much. You see some bright spots with it, but that is really what is happening with a lot of the things you're talking about. So you have things like, in that one, the academic mindset versus the commercial mindset. The IP and licensing out of most universities, quite honestly, is horrible. I was teaching a class at the University of Texas on how to commercialize technology, the technology transformation, the TSCC class. In my session, one of the students called me and said, this professor I'm working at is a great idea. I know you have background in DoD. Can you help me make some introductions? Well, I got the professor on the call and thing, but they also had one of their technology transfer roles. And it was a real interesting discussion. I told the professor, yes, I have contacts on that can get your technology inside the Department of Defense. Yes, there's ability to help you there. But then the lawyer came on and said, Mr. Smith, you do understand that you cannot make a penny on this. You do understand that we're the ones who negotiate the deal. Mr. Smith, you understand, blah, 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 blah. And I said, that's great. Thank you so much for giving me that information. And I told the professor over the call, I said, Dr. So-and-so, if you really want to commercialize this into that area, take your technology away from the university, form another company, and come back and call me. Which that kind of upset the lawyer. But that's kind of the mindset you have to work with. And there's something called limited early stage capital. Universities lack pre-seed capital. They like prototype funding. They usually lack really having good investor alignment. And those are the things that really are there. But the biggest one to me, and I know it sounds crazy, is the cake analogy. Most technologies I see coming out of universities are that half-baked cake. So that's just my analogy to start the discussion, Dr. Sharif.
Gary, what's your advice about innovation to commercialization?
That's for me? Question for me?
For Gary. Gary.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, too. Thank you, Dr. Sharif, for inviting me to be part of this conversation. Today, we're talking about how to build a generation of unicorn companies, solutions that not only scale globally, but they also solve the real urgent problems. One of those problems is energy. Despite the rapid growth of renewable energy, the real scenario is that oil and gas still power the majority of global transportation, logistics, industrial systems. The challenge is just replacing these systems overnight. It makes what already exists cleaner, more efficient, and more sustainable today. And that's where the company that I work for is called OhmStar, and we do a product called DX1. And this is exactly where my work comes in. We've developed a fuel conditioning solution designed for oil and gas application that helps lower emissions by 70%, improve fuel efficiency, whether it's mileage or time, depending on if you drive in a vehicle or if you have an engine for a generator or something like that. It optimizes combustion performance. What makes this especially powerful is that it works within the existing engines and infrastructure. There's nothing extra that you need to put up. You simply put it in the gas and you put it in the oil. And so nobody needs any kind of massive capital investment to start making an impact on the world and on the emissions. Globally, there are millions of engines, generators, and industrial systems that currently in operation. And they all represent a major source of emissions. They represent a massive cost center for businesses, and it's a critical opportunity for immediate improvement. While long-term innovation is crucial, which is what everybody talks about 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, there's a big gap between where we are today and where we want to be when we're fully energy efficient. Our solution is designed to bridge that gap, to go from today to 5 years. And what excites me the most and why I got totally involved in this company was the environmental and economic value. On the environmental side, we can help reduce harmful emissions, improve fuel burn efficiency, support compliance with growing ESG and regulatory demands. On the economic side, businesses can lower their fuel and cost and usage, improve operational efficiency, and it extends the life on their equipment. So it's a reduction on CapEx and things like that. The combination is key because solutions that succeed globally must be not only sustainable, but also financially compelling. From a university to unicorn perspective, the scalability is everything. And this is not a niche product that we have. We've been in business for over 30 years. This technology application across transportation, which is trucking, shipping, fleet, and personal equipment and stuff, oil and gas operations, backup power systems and generators, emerging markets where infrastructure upgrades are limited. This means that the potential market is global and multi-industry. And important enough, it's a solution that can be deployed quickly and scaled rapidly, which is what investors and ecosystems like this are built to support. So it has an instant gratification, as I say, because it immediately, the minute you put it in, the minute you use it, the minute it works through your system, it has the efficiency, it has the lower emissions and things like that. And another key theme here today is collaboration. To scale solutions like this, we need alignment between innovators, universities and research institutions, industry leaders, and investment partners. And there's a strong opportunity for research validation and performance studies with universities, pilot programs with industry partners, and strategic investment to expand deployment globally. And this is exactly the type of ecosystem that can take a practical and innovative and turn it into a global standard. If we're serious about building a global venture ecosystem and solving real world problems, we need solutions that can operate at scale today while supporting the transition to tomorrow. Energy is one of the biggest levers we have. Improving how fuel is used, even incrementally, can lead to massive cumulative impact worldwide. So my focus is simple: help industries reduce emissions and improve efficiencies right now, work with partners who want scalable, practical climate solutions, and contribute to a future where innovation delivers both profit and global impact. And by doing this, we bring the university and the new young people coming out of uni and college and all that into the business world without having to invest $100,000 or $1 million or anything like that. So I'm excited to collaborate with anyone here who shares that vision, whether through research, investment, or pilot opportunities. I have companies all around the world. I'm in Africa mostly right now, but working in some of the Asian countries and here in America. And the biggest problem that these people are having to get started and start up is a financial investment. And for as little as $50,000, $25,000, they can get this product started in their country. And I'm working with a lot of the governments to try to mandate the product in there because it's the only product in the world that's non-toxic and that is made from vegetable esters, which has no fuel, no kind of alcohol or anything like that, ethanol, nothing in it. This product can be shipped on regular jets and airplanes because it's non-toxic. So it's a solution that can help people get started in business. It's a solution that can help bring down emissions across the world. It's a solution that people can get into today, and the results are today, not 5 years from now, not 10 years from now. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to go from what we're doing to unicorn companies.
Thank you. Mr. Jamsid, you are from media. So how media can help for innovation towards limitations?
I'm sorry, I just got a call just as you asked the question. Excuse me. I wanted to thank you first and foremost for inviting me, and the discussion so far has been tremendous. The question of the media is really, the media has changed now. We're in a different environment. And the social media is one way to think of it. And I live in between San Francisco and San Jose in California, and I live by a street called Sandhill Boulevard, which is also called Venture Capital Boulevard. And I can't walk my dog without passing a venture capitalist. So in the 1990s, I was at lunch, and I heard the Stanford student pitching his launch idea to his date. And I had heard this old story about when your cab driver starts talking about his portfolio, it's time to sell. And that was, we had such a run up in the .com. Anything that had a .com, the venture capitalists were giving money to. And so this made me kind of, very nervous. And I sold our .com stocks. And the majority of they sold that at a price of 120, and in a matter of months it was down to 12. And my wife thought I was a genius, which has since eroded, but she still appreciated it at the time. And I think that we have to be wary of this, because people were providing things that people didn't need. And there were a lot of companies with the .com after them that there was no need for them. And so you can be as creative as you want. And I have an example because I was on the board of a .com company that didn't make it and had a great product. But they didn't know how to market it. They didn't know how to advertise it, to get people to buy it. And having just a website is not enough. People think of a website, people will come to it. How do you drive the eyeballs to the website? And so there's things like I'm just going to pick a couple of examples, but like TikTok, people when they're looking at this media, they're very likely to click away from whatever it is nowadays that they're watching. You have to grab their attention quite immediately. And so, as wonderful as these guests have been, and I've been fascinated by the discussion, there aren't that many people who are going to listen to the entire program with the interest that I have. For example, if you don't catch their attention, and especially if you have a product that you want to market, that you want people to buy. And so, you do something on TikTok. Well, there's AI can generate clips of the show, and you put it on TikTok, and a person are clicking on things and they see this, and if they're interested in it, you have the URL in the comment section or something like that. And LinkedIn is another way for people to come in. But you don't put the URL in the post, because that people don't what you do is you put an AI clip in the post, and you put the URL in the comment section. And what this does is drive people, if they're interested, if they click on it and are interested, then they will take the action to click on your URL and learn more. But the idea is not to take out advertisements in newspapers or things like that. The way is to meet them where they're at and say what they can hear. And it's a very short window of attention that you have to greet them. And I hope that helps, Sharif. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your excellent response. I want to introduce our great partner, Validate Tech CEO, Williams, and he has a great contributions with emerging economy. You know that World Talent Economic Forums, we are bringing 100 million people, 100 million youth for emerging economy from India, from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from Malaysia, from Indonesia, and all of the places in Asia Pacific. And very famous universities in this region and the government agencies like ICT Ministry, like largest business incubations, innovation lab, as well as university like IIT, university like Asian business schools, like IIT Madras, as well as from Bangladesh, it's a North-South University, Daffodil Universities, Chittagong Engineering Universities, uh, like Asia Pacific University, Dhaka University. We are bringing hundreds of millions of the youth talent, what we call talent economies. And I want to give a big thanks to Validate for introducing and bringing and developing world largest venture capital ecosystems for supporting to this talented and so on. You can see more than 2000s like VC funds. They are in these ecosystems, and we are introducing this ecosystem to all of the talented and so on. And I want to give very special thanks to my friend to support this initiative with his innovations and innovative team. So CEO of Validate Tech, how you want to introduce your like our largest ecosystem
Yes.
for the universities? Yeah.
Thank you very much for that great intro. Basically, I started out from you could say, a mentor side of things, where it was mostly getting frustrated that a lot of, especially early stage founders, and students fall into that category as well. They were asking for help and didn't really have the resources to really get help at the stage that they were at. So from my end, I started to look at the ecosystem a bit in more detail, and saw a couple of things that motivated me to try to do something about it. And to the point of one of the previous speakers, it's that the university or colleges only go so far, where these founders end up almost in the valley of death, where they can't go any further on their own, and they need help. So basically, what I started to look at when I saw that, I was like, okay, how is it for accelerators? How is it for investors? And came to find out, especially VCs, they typically only invest in 3 to maybe 5% of the deals they get across their desk, whereas hundreds of deals, sometimes they don't even get a reply if they'll get an investment. And then on the side of accelerators, from a lot of accelerators, you don't even get to hear if you didn't make it. You just see that the deadline has passed to apply, and can then assume you didn't make the cut if you didn't get an email. But you never really hear what you did wrong or anything like that. And the same went for investors, where you get a brief, only a very short um, reason why somebody didn't invest in you or something of that nature. So I wanted to do something about that, where through my platform, I wanted to also mix getting online assistance to working on several assignments for a founder's business, while at the same time connecting to mentors and experts in the field that really have the real life person expertise that is needed to move forward. So on the platform that Dr. Sharif had mentioned, it is more or less very, I try to make it as easy as possible with regards to people getting help. And at the same time, I try to look at, hey, how are things going in terms of connecting to expertise, connecting to investments, and try to make it as easy as possible. And now we're in the process of really rolling that out.
Thank you. Lisa, my next question for you. How can venture capital firm, angel investor, and university collaborate to create a strong startup ecosystem?
Oh my goodness, that's quite a question. I do want to go back to our gentleman from who's working in Africa, as of course, that's where our major concentration is right now with regard to UnityNet. We've got over 4,800 contacts in over 53 nations, 33 of which are on the African continent itself. And a lot of this has to do with resolving a great many issues that have resulted in constant conflict and mass migration, which of course is a wealth underneath the soil. But another one, of course, is energy production and internet technology. With these areas, we only have small clusters of people who have the knowledge and the ability to move things forward. But what we also see is a lot of great ideas that we've been coming into contact with. Ledbetter Innovative Technologies, one of the groups that I work with, is very key to this. We've started speaking with the University of Embu in Kenya and started to connect them with other universities from around the world for a series of programs that do involve producing electrical power within the next 10 years to the 600 million people on that continent who have none, and likely improving the electrical system that the majority of the continent's been working with, which was slowly bought out by a small group out of Germany who take monies in order to give or take electrical power away, depending upon the time of year and whether or not elections are going on. But we have a lot of technologies that are coming into play, especially starting in Kenya, where we're working with Lake Victoria and the many issues it faces in accordance with global warming. Now, myself, working with a UNESCO agency, I do have access to a number of things that others don't. And I would very much like to speak with anyone else working on the continent with what they do and see how we can collaborate on some of the programs we each mutually run. My personal job has been to basically sensitize the charity organizations that are everywhere into coming into a nonprofit collaborative system, which under international law can use the information they already gather every single day as these collaboratives to be able to get land, tools, equipment, building services of all kinds, as 10 million other nonprofit collaboratives do every single day all around the world. And bringing in information from these groups as well. We also bring in those architects, scientists, engineers, think tanks, brain trusts, groups of all kinds that have a keen interest in testing out their technologies at large. Some of these are also backed by universities themselves, which actually do contribute a sum of monies to Unify, with ones that are on the ground, assisting them in a resurgence of their own internship programs, which in many nations have fallen by the wayside due to the constant conflict, the mass migration, and of course the economic protocols and difficulties that they face every day. With regard to Lake Victoria, of course, we're looking at a number of solutions, one of which I think I've mentioned before, which is a slow wave technology, where we have a gentleman who had produced a solution for issues on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And he's going to be making modifications to put this into Lake Victoria, where, well, what this slow wave technology produces, of course, number one is a cooling of the water. Number two, a production of electrical power. And number three, hydrogen gas, which was the original form of gasoline we used before the oil and gas companies bought their way in and took over. And of course, hydrogen gas, as I'm sure a number of you will agree, is far cleaner than what we deal with today in terms of how it's detrimental to a number of ecological systems. So I am more than happy with anyone who wishes to come to me and speak with some of our specialists in the field that we're working with right now to see if we can create further collaboration. We do have groups from all around the world that have been taking an interest at every single level, including the edutainment systems, where we've been using cultural education to restore communities and restore the outlook of youth and adults in those systems, simply by restoring cultural practices every single day. And in keeping with UNESCO global goals, we've also started building up a group called the Center for Language, preservation, because language is history. And as we start looking at the many difficulties that we face in global warming, what we have to do is look back at the solutions that were found by people in communities all around the world through how they developed language to deal with the situations they had at hand. Right now, we've just activated in Nigeria, where there are over 500 languages at moderate to high risk of disappearing. And these are groups that have outlasted mankind for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So the combinations of these, plus, of course, the interest we're getting from universities all around the world, also is sparking up the investment of local business and the activities they perform, improvements that they have already applied for, with funds being provided by a number of different nations to create improvements and increase those possibilities for university students. And of course, university there at Bangladesh has got a keen interest in what it is we do as well. But I'll put my contact information in the link, in the chat, so that anyone who wishes to discuss with myself and a number of our scientists that are already in our UnityNet pages about how far we've gone and what it is we plan to do in these early phases as the Alliance signs all of its papers, which should happen within the next couple of weeks. They've planned for the 19th of this month to have everything finished. So we can start to take beyond the several $1 million of seed money that we've been given by other nations who want to have open commerce with the interior, and expand that to include many other businesses worldwide. So that's what I wanted to put out there.
Thank you. World Talent Economic Forum, happy to support your initiative. Jiri, what's your thoughts from Europe regarding this venture capital startup ecosystem, and how does it work?
Hello. First of all, I will virtually handshake with everybody here: Lisa, David, Gary, James, Julam, Thomas, Rob, and Fred. And least, I would like to thank Sheriff for introduction. I'm very honored to be here. I will be very brief. I despite the fact that I graduated from the Czech University of Agriculture, where I didn't back then have much opportunity to unicorn with companies, I have become an English teacher, and I have been teaching English for all my life, supporting education using platforms like TED Talks, TEDx talks with inspiring leaders from the whole world for my students. However, I have also introduced podcasting. And why am I talking about this? That I am very open to collaboration, not only with students from universities, but with you guys as well. The Czech Republic, the country where I am from and where I am currently, I would like to support you if you need any help from me or anything concerning startup ecosystem, concerning unicorns. I'm interested in it, very interested. It's my hobby, and the business is my hobby. In my free time, I dedicate much time to it, and I would be very happy to discuss and collaborate with you. And to answer very briefly with one sentence your question, Sharif, I would like to say that it's very important to communicate, to have a certain digital hubs or communities established between students of universities and the companies, so that they can share together and they can work together and collaborate together. This is my idea, and I'm giving back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. My next question for Fred, like, what's your thought about artificial intelligence, digital technology, and deep tech innovation plays in creating the next generation of unicorn?
That's going to play a major role in going forward. I believe between this group of people here and the minds involved that there are those here that can lead the way in all of this. As a preface to everything I do, I take notes. I've got about 4 pages of notes here because my short-term memory is very lacking, but my long-term is incredible. So communication and dialogue between all of these groups and people is going to be essential to moving forward with this. To take the knowledge that we have from the universities and the private schools and incorporate it with the business development, to find the creativity and link to the logistics of doing this little dance around. David, I loved his analogy to baking because I was a cook for years and I worked under 3 different master chefs. And it was always an amalgamation of different ingredients to put together, make them work for a single unified idea. We have the ability to create a web using entertainment and media rather than propaganda to develop these ideas. I see product moving forward by using a clearinghouse of sorts between each inside nations and between them. And this group serves as a functional diagram of how that can work. We talk of payment systems, methods. We can have charities involved, nonprofit. We need a multi-pronged approach that includes everybody and maybe not isolate, but include these groups in a diversity from moving forward with these ideas. Climate, ecosystem. Ecosystem, you're talking about starting from a blank page and evolving into a usable group like this. That is the ideal way of moving forward on it. We already have a power structure involved here. We have cost emissions, long-term innovations. I even thought maybe bringing crypto into this for those who can invest in it and understand how it works to add to what we have, financial experts, business efficiency, sustainability, and scalability. The backups, all this, and upgrading the infrastructure. Like I said, some kind of clearinghouse between the entire world that can reach out to all, prioritize those individual requirements that move forward with the investors and combine what we already have involved with national and inventories. I have a hard time coming up with the correct language on the spot, but I thank everybody. And I appreciate everything going on with this group. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Sharif.
Thank you, Mr. Rob. We are just observing your article regarding this venture capitals and unicorn and so on. So, what's your thought about this artificial intelligence? digital technology and deep tech innovations play in creating the next generation unicorn? What's your thought about that?
Well, I think it'd be foundational. The AI can perform a number of roles. One of the most important roles it can perform in something like this is the role of simulation. Being able to run market simulations to figure out if, in fact, you have a product that somebody's going to want, and to identify the people that are going to want it, and then create a targeted marketing campaign to make sure that a large percentage of the people that might want the product get a chance to buy it. But first, you've got to validate whether or not you actually have a market for this thing. And I say this coming from IBM. I had an experience at IBM when I was in marketing there, where a guy came in and said, we just spent $20 million developing this product. You need to develop a marketing plan for it. And my first question was, well, who's the buyer? Who describe to me who's going to want this thing? Because I read the product description and I couldn't figure out who would want something like this. And the guy said, well, if you need that to do your job, then you better best go do it. And I threw him out of my office. A peer did pick up the product from me, spent 20 grand doing market research and discovered nobody wanted the product. That's after he spent $20 million developing it and the product was discarded. And we were doing this kind of crap all the time. So the AI gives you the ability to do analysis and simulation at scale. And allows you to actually see if your idea is viable, and that should become kind of the core of the underlying effort, is to make sure that it is institutionalized by policy, that people do the research, and before the project is funded, they can showcase market size, targeted customers. They have a marketing plan in mind that is executable, and this can all be done by AI now. You don't have to deploy 20 people, 30 people, 100 people to do this work. You can do the initial work just with AI. Now, do recognize that depending on how you're prompting, AI can hallucinate and can give you an idea that there's a market when there isn't. But that just means you're validating the underlying assumptions, and it does mean you might want to run different AI models and see if they agree with each other in terms of outcome. In other words, just because it gives you a favorable answer, that doesn't mean you should accept it right out of the box. And this needs to be trained in right at the front end. A lot of companies, as they're formed, they start doing this circular argument stuff where everybody agrees with everybody else, and they're not looking outside the group to discover what are some of the collateral damages that could occur, what are some of the items on the critical path to success that people may not have thought of, and here AI, if you're prompting properly, AI can help an awful lot. So as these firms are being conceptualized, one, they've got to take into account AI over time. Another thing to think about with regard to AI, we're in a position of massive change at the moment, and if you're starting off with a product idea, by the time you get it to market, it's going to be a number of years. And so part of the effort with regard to simulation is simulating that future time period to make sure, even if the product is viable today, will it still be viable in the 3 to 5 year time frame that it's going to take you to bring it to market at scale, and make sure that you're well founded. It may come back that it's not. It may come back that you're going to have to make some modifications, but invariably you're going to have to take into account the impact. Not only use AI in development, but take into account the impact of AI at the back end when the product is developed, to make sure that the product is still a viable choice for somebody to buy. So yeah, I believe AI should be at the core and heart of any development effort right now, both as a tool to help you develop the product and as a way to anticipate whether or not the market, if there is a market for the product, and anticipate whether or not that market will remain at the end of the development period. You also want to run competitive scenarios, anticipate what others are out there in the space, how quickly they're going to respond to your product, if they will, and then develop competitive strategies, again, early on, to overcome the likely response by companies that are already in the space, and may fight the product introduction. And by the way, that effort might also identify companies that could become partners, that could become acquirers of the technology, and allow you to make decisions early on whether those alternative paths to market are viable, or even something you want to consider. A lot of people don't recognize that, you know, you build something like this, a lot of the fun is actually bringing it to market and carrying forward. But for a number of folks, they're just, you know, they're just chasing a paycheck and a reward. And for them, developing the groundwork and then selling it off is probably fine. But you want to make that decision early on, or there are going to be a lot of people pissed when you don't take the path that they really thought that you're going to take. So it helps get everybody on board with regard to the overall goals of the company, whether or not they're going to bring it to market or if they're going to sell it off early on. So people have a major problem with that. They can find other things to do, go to other companies, and not spend the 3 years developing something that they're not going to be able to play with, and then becoming the pool of disgruntled employees that will undoubtedly pop up and help create problems for you when you finally productize the offering and bring it to market. So AI at the core, and it can be used in a number of ways. You just have to be aware of the shortcomings of the AI, make sure that you're validating the results, and become very good at doing prompts that don't force the AI to hallucinate. And by the way, that last skill, it isn't easy.
Thank you. Thomas, what's your thought about artificial intelligence and digital technologies? Can you unmute yourself, Thomas?
In another group similar to this, on Tuesday, I learned that in Argentina, you can be an AI and have your own company. And there was another guy from Germany who said that there's a certain iCloud code, and he runs, like basically, just going to the point where companies, at least in Argentina, can be run by AI, and in other countries by a single person, which will probably lead to a big loss of jobs in the business and coding community.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mr. David, as you are contributing in emerging economies, so how can emerging economies such as, let's say, Bangladesh develop world-class startup ecosystem that compete globally? What's your thought? Mr. David.
Sorry about that. Actually, the world has changed so much in the last 2 years that this is not really almost a real question anymore, Dr. Sharif, because as we've seen from after COVID, and I hate to go back to COVID, that the world has changed, that it's not just the top tier nations who are making contributions now, but it's really looking at what are the competencies, what are the capabilities of each of the regions, and what are the natural resources, what are the places where they have very strong strengths that can be played together and made possible. So if you begin to look at it, artificial intelligence, digital technology, deep tech, they're really not sectors anymore. They're really not a sector that looks at how it is. They're part of, you've heard me talk about the middleware across the ecosystems. They're scaffolding on how the next generation of unicorns is built, finance and scale. And we see AI as being a core value engine. And AI is an equalizer across the different sizes of countries and in the different ecosystems there. You're seeing the AI native products. You're seeing data moats that help unique data sets come together that are particularly good for the examples here. You're seeing the fact that digital technologies become a distribution and leverage layer. You're seeing APIs and microservices and things expand dramatically fast. You see onboarding become very simple because of all the tools, of all the chatbots and other things that can be used. And you're seeing Now, not just short-term markets re-emerging, and I do want to use the word re-emerging. We're now seeing long horizon markets, particularly in things with infrastructure, healthcare, energy, securities. These have massive durable demand. And it gives all of us globally a chance to be part of that. So, the real power I'm seeing, to answer your question, Dr. Sharif, is like in Bangladesh. It's using the stack. It's using the capabilities there in the companies, in the government, in academia. It's using adaptive intelligence, which is taking AI and moving it forward. It's using digitalization because it has global reach and it lets you iterate rapidly. And it's using the ability, Dr. Sharif, to look at these hard problem sets. And not like we did in the past, where you had, for smaller countries, you had a limited product set. Today, with where we are today with all those factors, you now have a global product set you can reach and address. And I think that is going to be the biggest thing, is applying these together as an effective ecosystem to be globally competitive very fast.
Excellent. Excellent. Mr. Gary, what's your thought as you're working in the emerging economy, specifically in Africa? So how they can strengthen the startup ecosystem? What's your advice, Gary?
I think the biggest thing is just like the problem around the world, as we've all talked about. In my day, you got out of uni and you went to go get a job, and they said, well, as soon as you have experience, we can hire you. But then nobody gave you the experience. So I think we have the same situation here with we have new technology, we have new scenarios nowadays that we do back then. But I think we have, in my opinion, people that are coming out of university, at least in America, I feel. I'm not sure about, the other areas, but they seem to not be as, it wasn't as challenged as they came through university as they should have been. So I think a lot of people that are coming out of university now are weak, both mentally and physically, where they don't know what we know. They don't know the idea that you can't quit just because you have one little problem or two little problems. And I've had coaches tell me this. I've had teachers tell me this, that it's so hard to teach these kids these days because they all think they all have their own problems. They all want you to deal with them and them only. You're trying to deal with 36, 38 people on a team or something, and every kid has his own little problem that he wants you to devote all of his time to. Well, I think one of the problems is that we're not as tenacious as we used to be. We're not as aggressive as we used to be. And I think a lot of the financiers and a lot of the people that want to give these young guys a start and help get started, you're fearful because you're afraid they're not going to be serious enough. You're afraid that the minute that things get tough, they bail out. They want to go, and then the money you've invested in them, the money you've invested in the product and trying to help them with a startup, it just goes to waste. Now, one thing that I like that I did out here, I'm in LA right now, Los Angeles, and I'm from New Orleans. And in New Orleans, we had incubators. And I felt like that setting up an incubator, where my theory was you get an old schoolhouse where they have all the different offices. You set up on where the entrance, where you come in, you have a reception there, and each classroom is a different business. So you can give young people, without investing too much, you can give them the opportunity to have their own office. You have a meeting room where if anybody needs to have a meeting, and everything is professional, not back road stuff. You've got your internet set up. You've got AI is there where you can use it, where you've got it there, and teach these kids how to go. And then when they have a problem, they can come to you right then and there, and you discuss it with them. And you have a mentor there. You have 4 or 5 mentors that can be called on at different times when these young guys or young ladies have problems in getting started and doing. And I think that's a good way to wean them off of mama's here, so to say, don't worry about anything, to, hey, you're on your own now. You're an adult, you're on your own, you got to figure this out. We're not figuring it out for you anymore. So this is a way that you can get them from crawling to walking to running. And then you might have somebody in there that might go through 2 or 3 different jobs or different types or whatever before they find their area that they can excel in and they can do. And then you have liability, you have a time period that you can be in this incubator. We'll support you for X amount of months, and then you have to start your own business and get out on your own and do it on your own. And in turn, we have funders that are backing us up, that when we feel and there's a certain criteria to meet, that once these people get up and ready to go out, then we have funders that are less afraid to help and to invest, because now they know them. Now they know what they can do. Now they know how tough they are in business and that. And I think that's a good way to get these companies started. AI is a great tool now. The way I use AI is if I got to write a program, or if I've got to do for a grant for a company, I use it. What I do is I feed it what I want it to tell me, and then I ask it to tell me more professional. So it sets up like that, and it does like that. So AI right now, as we've talked about earlier, can help you get through the, okay, I want to be trim dog tails into funny looking animals. Well, you get on AI and put it in there, and AI will come back and laugh at you. Okay, you say, okay, maybe that wasn't a good idea to come through. So AI, you can use AI to get you closer to what you think you want to do. So I think with all the tools that we have now, if we do it the right way, if we get these young people to get out and get aggressive and and do what they want to do and go to their passion, we can make this work, and we can make it happen. It might take a little longer than we want to, but I feel that we do have the mindset and everything out here to have people get successful and to be the unicorn that they want to be and be successful with it.
Thank you, Mr. James. My next question for you: what policy, talent development strategy, and innovation hubs are needed to accelerate this unicorn? James, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I just asked if anyone else wanted to raise their hand and answer that. Yeah. Well, Sharif, thank you for that question. I don't think I'm the best to answer that, but what I will say is I will double down on how to use AI. One of the things is that AI is coded right now to be supportive, and so you can get a false positive about your ideas too, because they want to encourage you, and so be aware of that. But I do think, we have these Google Meet and Zoom and all these ways that we can meet electronically now, so that we don't have to, we can be geographically diverse and still be a team. And so this is one thing and you're demonstrating it right now. People from all over the world are joining you on this program. And so if you are having trouble connecting with other people, because one of the things I had to learn was that, because when I was a teenager coming out of university, I thought I knew it all and couldn't be told very much. And my ideas were always the best. And so having collaboration is a very important thing, because you have people, and especially people you respect, bouncing ideas back and forth, and you can get the appropriate kind of feedback that isn't just supportive, but is also instructive. And one of the things my father taught me when I was a child was to keep learning, and not to just wait to be taught, but to teach yourself. And so when you graduate university, do not expect that you've stopped learning. You have so much more to learn. And careers now often are, multifaceted in the sense that, you start doing one thing, you start doing another thing, you start doing it, and change is accelerated in our environment now. So we're having to learn and relearn different things as we go along, and we have to develop the expertise that we didn't have. So one of the things that we have to have is also confidence, not cockiness, like the way I was, but confidence that we can learn. And just because we don't know the material now, the subject matter now, doesn't mean that we cannot learn it and we cannot develop an expertise or a proficiency at least. And these are the types of things, and we do have so many more tools than when I graduated from university now that can support us. And these, and so we don't necessarily only use the internet now for entertainment purposes, although that is one of its primary uses. We can also use it for collaboration. And we often, in the United States, we are often taught to compete, but collaboration is another C word. Cooperation is another C word. And when we have that mentality and we develop a team, we tend to be stronger. And it's not just teams of friends who are like-minded, who will agree with you and support you, but teams that have people that think a little bit differently than you do and might not agree with you all the time. And to work through these, and these are interpersonal relationships, which we don't train people on. But these are the interpersonal relationships, and these skills are equally important when you get into, especially a startup environment, where you know people can be very touchy. You know, I used to say sensitive, but it's a little bit beyond sensitive. It's touchy, you know, because and you got a lot of ownership over your ideas, and so you can be very, very protective of them. And you know, you have to have a little bit of tolerance of other ideas. And to think, you know, and also not to push for your own solution and stick with it, live or die on that hill, you know, but to settle for some sort of compromise, another C word, that achieves the result, even if it's not exactly what you thought the outcome would be. So the interpersonal skills that we don't teach and we often don't develop are critical in these small group environments. And when we're trying to build a team, don't just look for affirmations. Don't just look for people that agree with you. Build a team that have people that have expertise that you do not have, people that are not necessarily going to pat you on the back. You're not looking for that kind of affirmation, you know. And I agreed with the assessment of a lot of people give up too early. There is a time to give up. I used to say, when I surrender, it's on the wrong end of a bayonet. But now sometimes you have to admit, you know, this idea simply isn't going to work. And failure is not a C word. You know, you want to keep going, persevere. And this is also something that we fail to teach the young often enough, that perseverance is often the answer, because you can experience what you might think is failure, but you're just this close to success. And you keep trying. And that effort will be rewarded more often than not, in my experience. So if you believe in what you're doing, keep doing it. You don't surround yourself with people that, you know, as we see in the President of the United States now, he's surrounding himself with people who are going to tell him what he wants to hear. That's not how you run a country. It's not how you run a business. It's not how you run a startup. Surround yourself with people who might push back. Thanks.
Thank you. Jiri, are you with me? Jiri? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. This is excellent discussions. And you know that this 19th June, we are launching our largest innovation ecosystem in Chittagong Business Incubation. Chittagong is one of the largest business incubations in South Asia. So where thousands of young people, young entrepreneurs, they will join. So today's dialogue will be very, very important for them. Your experience is very important for them. So I want to request everyone to collaborate with the World Talent Economic Forum, because we are launching CEO development program. So Fred, Mr. Rob, Thomas, David Smith, Gary, Jen, Jiri, all of you, can mentor startup, and you can engage with the Asia Pacific market. And through this way, we can make a very good venture, and hopefully your contribution can change the emerging economy, and the developed nations also, they can bring maximum benefit to their economy. So thank you, Mr. Fred. Thank you, Mr. Rob. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Mr. David Smith, Mr. Gary, James, Jiri, and all of our speakers, those who are supporting our initiative. We are launching our CEO development program, innovative CEO development program based on technology, based on wisdom, based on venture capital, and so on. So hopefully your contribution will be very impactful in emerging economy. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.
Thank you, Sharif.